Wanted to take an opportunity today to take you through Conscious Grounds Farm and take a look at what the impact of the rains that we're having right now have had on the farm. In the past couple of weeks, we've seen hundreds of millimeters of rain fall on Australia and in the New South Wales area. And what we want to look at is what have we achieved with the earthworks that we've done in the past year, and how have they impacted our ability to manage water. So look forward to showing you some of the things we've done today and giving you a perspective on how we looked at how we could affect a change on this land to help us better navigate the impacts of the heavy rains that we're seeing happening around the world. All right, so what we have here is a wall that we set up. It's part of our catchment system, so the water's flowing through, coming down. Kai's quite tall, and he's standing in about 50-60 centimeters deep in water. All this is forming a silt trap for us to catch organic matter. As it reaches this higher point, it comes over the rocks, which further catches more organic matter, and then it flows down. And there's a series of this. This is now the third trap that we have coming out of our main dam. As we continue down, off in front of me there, you'll see the next one ahead, which does roughly the same thing. And then we continue to flow all the way through the farm with dozens of these, each of them ensuring that we're creating an area to hold water year round in these ponds. At the same time, ensuring that as water moves out of the farm, we capture any organic matter that we can, establishing this ecosystem around us, and protecting the land that we want to protect. And by channeling this water intentionally across our entire farm, we're able to move these millions of liters of water that are moving through right now. The valves that we have up ahead, each of those pipes moves 100,000 liters an hour. Both of them are flowing, plus they're flowing over our road. And we fill this, as you can see, with all these grasses and plants. These grasses and plants are taking up these minerals, moving them into the grasses, and that will either get consumed by our cattle when they're in here, or it's something that we can remove out and put into our compost system. Here we are a little further down in the catchment. You can see the upper area. We put these in a series. They're not very far apart. Each one of them is establishing what we were looking for, is to collect yabbies, create fish areas, just pretty much what wildlife have an opportunity to have a habitat and all this beautiful lushness. Historically, we would see large amounts of water come through here. We would lose our land mass, and then it would go dry. Now what we've done is these are staying wet year round. So this pond, this whole section has held water through all the dry periods. Anytime if they start to run dry, we have our valve, we can open up and allow water back into these sections to keep them hydrated, keep everything going, and support the life that's in here. But so far, they've actually held all the water we need them to. And in a storm event like this, where we're getting so much water coming down, they're managing all that water, and we're not losing anything due to the structure of having the rocks where they need to be to create the waterfall step. That allows us to drop through elevations. At this point, we're coming into an elevation drop. The rocks are holding it. Where we want to retain water back, the rocks are holding that, slowing down the path of the water, capturing the organic matter, and then flowing on. What's important to see here is how critical these grasses are. And by having grasses along this, even though all this water is moving, it's at a gentle slope. It's not coming quickly. It's actually at a slow drop rate. And these grasses are going to hold this perfectly fine. They're actually collecting nutrients as it flows through. That ultimately will allow these grasses to thrive. This is our spillway area, and it's so important your spillways have organic matter growing on them. Now we can see where our pipe's coming out here, and we can see where it's coming over the spillway. Now we'll take a look at the dam and see how the dam is. What we're looking at here is our main agricultural dam. It is the end of our series of dams. Further up this hillside over here, we have a series of dams that all flow down in here, and we'll work our way back up through the catchment. But you can see this dam has reached its peak. We have the pipes in front of us here. These pipes are allowing water to flow out of the dam. About 4 meters, 3.5 meters down in this dam, we have other pipes that are our valves that we can open up to drain the dam. Everything's wide open, yet the water is still coming over our spillway. What's so important is that you keep your spillways clean. In this case, we've cut away the grass to ensure, because these grasses will hold back 50 centimeters of water or more and slow down how the water comes out of the dam. In the last storm, we didn't have this cleared away, and our dam had actually gotten to the point that it was about 30 centimeters from the top of the wall, where we prefer to have about 1.5 meters, which is what we have now, by keeping the spillway clear. You can see how deep the water is. Spot's about to go in there, but he chickened out. So I'll just come in across our spillway at the top, and we'll continue our way up to the chain. All right, so we've come up further into our catchment. You can see where the water flows through underneath our road, heads down into our main agricultural dam behind those trees. And this is an area where we still have work to do. This is a dam that we're planning to remediate this year. You can get an idea how much water is moving down when it can actually start to really accelerate and doesn't have the right path. This is now stripping away part of this hillside, and ultimately could threaten this entire dam that you can see has, you see the people up on top, has about a 15-meter head wall on this. So this will be what we'll be fixing this year, making sure we got some good pipes running the water down, making sure we're managing the flow of this water. We have other ways this water can come down that would be beneficial for supporting the dam wall that this isn't doing. I think one important note is, as fast as this water is coming down and as fast as it's moving, ultimately these grasses are here, and these strong grasses that we have are holding this hillside intact. And even though the water is coming across it, it's being maintained up until the point near the top where it's so strong that it has washed off that grass. And this is an idea of where these grasses are. These are grazed by our cattle. Generally every 4 to 5 weeks they'll come through. Right now it looks like the cattle probably hasn't been through here in about 2 weeks. Here we can start to see where part of this hillside's actually peeled off. These are the grasses. Take a look at the depth of those roots. These are the roots coming off the bottom of those grasses. They're considerably long. Those roots are going to grow practically as tall as the grasses, and that was holding this in place. Even the earth underneath is still holding in there. Even though it's pulled these off, there's still enough organic matter as we get down in here. And I'll come down in this, and you can actually start to see you can see that root growth in there. That root growth is still allowing this to hold this hillside, even with this much water running across it. Now clearly this is something we need to remediate, but at the same time, the grasses are doing the job that they're intended to do. And we'll go ahead and step up here, come across the top, up to the dam. And this is the controlled spillway. And flowing down. Now we do have valves here to take water down the lower dam. We need to work on establishing more of that so we can move some of that water without coming off of this massive wall that we have here. And I'll go ahead and come over, and you can actually hear the pipe draining off water there. As you can see down below, there's our agricultural dam down there. And all this is our main catchment coming off of this massive hillside. So two major channels coming in here feeding this, bringing down the water of hundreds of acres of land flowing down through these dams. If you look into the distance, each of these areas where they come in, we have taro, we have reeds, we have all kinds of good organic matter there to ensure as that water comes down that hill, we have our sediment traps there, catching that water, cleaning that water, filtering it. So by the time it gets down to this dam, it's a lot clearer. Now our intention this year is we'll actually be draining this dam, digging out what we suspect will be about 1.5 meters to 2 meters of sediment, and we'll use that in our soil building projects like we did with our agricultural dam. You know, what we can see in here is all these reeds growing. This is doing the job that we need of cleaning the water, filtering this dam out, maintaining the habitat what we want to have in here. You see all this silt and all this dirt coming down, soil coming down. That's all coming from higher in the catchment. You know, through this entire regenerative forest we have here, all that's feeding nutrients. Hundreds of years of nutrients are coming down this hill at this time. These plants are taking that up, feeding on it, cleaning it, and ensuring the water quality that we have for growing our foods maintained. At the same time enabling us to catch that matter, not have it wash off and go out into the ocean. So this shows you the results of using these steep hillsides for planting, putting the trees in there where it's not really good ground for grazing cattle. It's extremely steep and rocky. We're getting the bird droppings, we're getting the animal droppings, we're getting all that biological life is in this storm flowing down this hill. You know, we're having a record rainy season, and it's outshining, or it's well over what we've ever seen in 100 years. So we're looking at a storm in excess of anything we've recorded in the past, which is meaning that in this storm, this dam and these are filling with more material than we have in any other recorded history. The matter that's coming into this dam, we will be cleaning it out this year and moving that into our food production system, upscaling it even further, and making that a tool for how we fuel the growth of our farm going forward over the coming decades.